stuff. Welcome to the Binge List. I'm your host, Paul Chappell, and today I'm reviewing Cam, a Netflix movie. Now, let me just give a little warning before I even start. If you have a wife or girlfriend and you're watching this movie on my recommendation or not watching it on my recommendation, just know that you probably want to warn your wife or girlfriend about the content in this movie before you start watching it, because as for me, I did not anticipate the mature nature of the movie, even though I really should have if I read just a little bit about it. I had seen a commercial, I think it was on Facebook, because my wife has completely taken over my Netflix account. She's always watching Netflix. She uses my account, and they base your recommendations on Netflix based on what you watch. So whenever I go in there, I get a lot of recommendations for chick flicks and stuff. So somehow I got hip to this movie, and like I said, I think on Facebook. And my wife is going to work one morning, and I decide, hey, I'm up. Let me go ahead and get this review over with. So I could have just waited 5 minutes and she would have been gone. But no, like a dope, I sit down, start this movie, and of course, the first scene in the movie is this cam girl doing a cam show, a live cam show. And the way it was directed, it basically looks like you're watching a real cam show. So, of course, my wife chooses that moment to walk in. And luckily for me, my wife is very liberal, and she's got a good sense of humor. She's like, well, hey, what are you watching? So, of course, I say, hey, baby, it's just research. I'm doing a review. Oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. Because this first scene in this movie is very, very wild. Believe it or not, I've never seen a cam show. And I know there's a lot of people at home right now like, get the hell out of here, Paul. But it's true, guys. It's true. I've never seen a cam show, and apparently, when you do a show, people throw money at you. In this case, in this show or this movie, it's tokens. They never really go through the trouble of explaining what the token to cash ratio is. So I assumed a token was close to $1 though. So people are on her live stream are daring her to do different things, and pledging a certain amount of tokens to do it, and which I thought was disturbing right off the bat. But this movie immediately got creepy because one of the people in their live stream, the incels or whatever you call these guys, challenges her to slit her own throat. And of course, for some reason, she has a knife handy and pulls out a knife. So I won't spoil what happens, but that kind of gives you a gist of what this movie is like. The part that interested me was the fact that the main character, her name is Alice. Her online name is Lola, played by Madeline Brewer. That's another thing. You're not going to know any of the actors in this movie. I think the director for the movie was a first-time director, because I looked up his IMDb page, and this is like his first movie. The writer was first-time writer Isa Maze, who was actually a cam girl in real life. So it's actually this movie is kind of loosely based on her life, but you go into this movie and it seems kind of real, because you don't really recognize any of the actors. I think there was like one character actor that I kind of recognize. He's one of those character actors. His name is Michael Dempsey. He played a character named Barney. I kind of recognize him. He was one of those character actors that's always in the background playing a police officer, security guard, accountant. You know, he's just got one of those faces of some poor slub in a dead end job. Not that being a police officer is, you know, a dead end job. Don't get me started on that. But you know, he's just one of these guys that you can pretty much, if you just need somebody in the background, almost like an extra, but an extra with a few lines, you want to get this character actor. But I'm not to say that any actors were terrible or anything. They were all very good actors. I found acting very convincing. But like I said, it's you're gonna see some boobies in this movie. So if you're scared of boobies, if you do not like boobies, if you don't want your kids seeing boobies, then don't watch it with your kids. Or if you don't want to see your significant other, if you have a problem with any kind of sexual content, this is not the movie for you. I just go ahead and say that because there's some things in this movie that there's a scene where she's discussing dildos and what dildo should I use to an audience. There's another scene where she's discussing using something called a Vibratron. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was a real device. But the Vibratron was supposed to be something that the audience actually controls. So just to give you an idea of some of the crazy stuff in this movie. My interest in the movie is primarily because I do a YouTube channel. I have a persona online. This character also has a persona online. So I was really interested in just the notion that somebody could steal your persona, because that's what happened. She's using an assumed name. So if you've seen the commercial, it's like a girl who looks exactly like her has stolen her account. And at the beginning of the movie, you see she's making a lot of money doing this cam because she just bought a new house. She goes to see her mother and she's diddling away on her phone. She buys a $5,000 like sofa, and it's like, so she's making money. So the fact that somebody could steal her account is very traumatic for her. Obviously, just based on the money she's making. But anyway, make a long story short, I thought the movie was going to be kind of predictable, and I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't, because she communicates with a couple of her followers. Some of her biggest tippers on this cam service, she actually talks to them. One of them is kind of stalking her, she finds out later. So she kind of have a problem with that guy. But then you find out that the guy stalking her has, you know, they're discussing him being out of work. And you find out that he's in IT. And you're like, So it's like, my first thought was, are they really going to be really that obvious with this? You know, obviously, you know, he's going to be behind the hacking of her account, right? And then they reveal later, she's trying to break it. This whole website has a ranking system of cam girls, and she's like, I think she's like number 53 when the movie starts, and she's trying to break into the top 50, and one of her rivals is like 49 or something. And you notice early on that one of her rivals looks very much like her. So I immediately thought, oh, this is getting too obvious. But you know, it wasn't as predictable as I thought it was going to be. So this movie had that going for it. I was actually impressed with some of the terms that they threw around, because this is real stuff, real technology. Because because I've seen movies based on the internet stuff, and the first problem with those type of movies is that it's very boring watching somebody looking at a computer screen and typing. Well, they didn't fall into that trap with this movie. And it's also usually they expose hacking as being something very, very kind of almost a science fiction. If you know anything about computer programming, it's never like the way they show it in Hollywood. And this movie didn't fall in any of those traps, I'm happy to say, except for one little tidbit that I can't really talk about without killing the suspense for this movie. But I'll just say they did mention a real phenomenon lately, a new technology you might have heard about. It's called deep fakes. So that played something, a small part in the plot. Which I was, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised that they even mentioned. And that, of course, is Lola. Or I think this is actually the girl that supposedly stole her account. But what else did I like about it? I've always really mentioned the good acting. It's good, great, especially this Madeline Brewer. I'm saying Brewster, but it's Madeline Brewer, who's I've seen some of her other credits, Orange is the New Black, and she was in The Handmaid's Tale. And in fact, I've seen a few episodes of Handmaid's Tale, and there was a character who they had her eye taken out, I think, or something. Was that same actor? But like I said, the performances in the movie was very, very believable. Despite the fact that everybody's pretty much new to the scene. The directing was pretty good. You could tell they didn't have a huge budget because they could have went a lot further with the plot. They could have had a lot more action than they did. And it really wasn't all that much action. There's no crazy explosions and gunfights at the end of this movie. So if you're looking for something like that, it never really escalates to that level. It's more psychological thriller. It's really, really creepy, but not necessarily scary unless you're in this girl's position as somebody who makes their living totally online. And then it's terrifying. And luckily, I'm not in that position because I don't make any money doing this. But I could see how it could be very scary for somebody with an online persona. So I'll just say I did like those elements of the movie. I would recommend it to somebody especially if you like horror films. Like I said, it's not that scary, but it's very creepy. So if you like creepy movies, this is the movie for you. If you don't like watching movies with a lot of titillation and a lot of boobies and, like I said, nudity, if you don't like watching pornos or anything resembling a porno, I would stay away from this. And I always would have to say it's probably not something you want if you have a daughter. It's probably not something you want your daughter watching. Because as much as this character is put through in the movie, you don't really feel at the end that she had any personal growth or that she learned a lesson. Because she pretty much at the end of the movie, she's still doing camps. But as far as Netflix movies go, on Netflix part, I have to say, they show some real courage with buying this movie, and because, like I said, it was very on the edge with the subject matter and very controversial subject matter. But like I said, I would recommend it if you like this type of movie, and I'll just leave it at that. Anyway,
hey, Paul Chappell. Speaking of online identity, why don't you get a better name? Come on, Paul Chappell.
Anyway, that's all I got for Cam. If you like this show, subscribe. If you like this show, subscribe, and I will see you when I see you. Thanks for watching.
Paul Chappell, why don't you get with the ball game, man? Why don't you join the winning team? You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.